Alright guys, welcome to our first video on how to change a mouthpiece on your second stage regulator. So before we go ahead, it's important that we mention that this is not in any way a servicing video, how to service equipment or anything like that. This is just some basic maintenance that comes in handy when you do have issues with your equipment. So a couple of tools that we're going to be using today, just a nice sharp pair of scissors. Alternatively, you can use something more along the lines of some side cutters like these if you don't have a nice sharp pair of scissors. It's also helpful to have a razor available as well, and we'll go through the reason for that in a moment. And of course, we need to replace the cable tie that we're going to be putting on the mouthpiece for this second stage. Alright, so what's the reason that you might want to replace a mouthpiece on your second stage? The first reason is you might be getting a bit of a wet breathe. So when you're taking a breath in, you're also getting a little bit of water. And what can happen is on the walls of these mouthpieces, you can get little tears or little cuts, and water can ingress through there. So you might be getting a bit of a wet breathe. But I'd say the most common reason that you'd be looking to change a mouthpiece is wear that you see through these, where your teeth bite in over on these sides here. So if we just have a look here, you can see this, just a little bit of wear on that one there. Okay, so now we know one of the reasons, or a couple of reasons, why we will be changing mouthpieces. Let's go through the process that's involved. So there's a couple of different designs of mouthpieces, and with each one there's going to be a certain way that you need to put it on. A good example of that is we do also have a mouthpiece like this where the teeth go in and also bite down the side there. Now, something to note, you can see right around here in this groove at the very front, it's got the word top, so that's telling you that that needs to be facing up. Now, there are some mouthpieces out there that are universal, so you can use them either way, upside down, or it doesn't really matter. In this case here with this mouthpiece, which is the one we're going to be putting on today, you can see there's also the word up here. And I also noticed too that if you were to look at the profile this way, you can see there's like a little lip indentation there. So that's important that we make sure it goes the right way up. Now, it's very simple to put a mouthpiece on. You can see here where we're breathing out of our second stage out this hole, that you can just slide the mouthpiece over the top until it's a nice comfortable fit. And what's important at this stage here as well is that we orientate the mouthpiece so that it's nice and square and even and not canted to one side. All right, so that's looking pretty good there. Now, for myself, and there's many different ways, and you'll get to know this with dive equipment, is there's many different ways that you can do things. But for myself, what I like to do with the cable tie here is ensure that the locking part is over to the right hand side where the hose is there. It seems to me that it just tucks out of the way quite nicely. So we're going to put the cable tie around, and while we're doing that, we're going to ensure that it goes into the groove that you can see just there, sits in very nicely, and we're just going to pull that tight. So how tight does this need to be? It can just be finger tight, which means holding with the hands here and locking it down. I like to have it nice and flush across the top here, but that's just purely for aesthetics. It can be down the bottom, down here. It can even be over on the other side, but for me, my preference is over here, out of the way, so you're not going to be using your hand to do any adjustments here and potentially bumping your hand on that little knob. It's a minor thing, but it's the little things sometimes. Now, with our scissors here, we're simply going to place it underneath, clip that in as close as we can, and that there can just be discarded. And now what we have to realize is that on the side here, there's a little bit of a sharp corner there and there. I'll see if I can show you guys a little bit better. And we need to make sure that those guys are nice and flush. There is a particular tool that you can buy that locks the cable tie down and cuts it off nice and clean. But if that's not in your garage, which I seriously doubt it is, you can use the razor here, and you're just going to lay it flush and simply slice that little edge off there, and slice that little edge off on the other side as well. The most important thing here, guys, is making sure that you keep the second stage regulator safe at all times, okay? As well as the mouthpiece. You can see when I nicked that one off, the blade came over. We just need to make sure that we haven't done any damage with that. Taking it nice and slowly and gently is the best way to do it. So that's how to replace a mouthpiece on your second stage. So if you ever see the guys at your local dive shop walk off and come back with a new mouthpiece, that's all they're doing. And this is something that you can do yourself, especially if you look at getting different brands or different types of mouthpieces, like the ones that you mold yourself and so forth. All right, hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.